It's been quite the interesting year at the box office this past 2023. What's happening, guys? Back at you with another video. And in this video, we're going to be ranking all the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2023. Like I was saying before, it's been quite the interesting year at the box office in 2023. There's actually a couple surprise movies I thought that wouldn't actually be on this list. And some movies I actually thought that might have made higher money, but they didn't. But let's go ahead and get into this ranking. Now, the way I'm doing this ranking is different contributing factors to each of these movies and how I'm judging these movies. One factor is going to be how is the rewatchability on the movie, how good that movie actually is, how good the story is, and basically how much did I enjoy the movie. So let's go ahead and get into this ranking. And coming in at the bottom for me is a movie that made about $476 million at the box office, and that is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, with this movie, I'm not against this movie as much as other people are, but I definitely see the complaints. I definitely see why people are hating on this movie. I totally get it. I totally understand why. Now, I think this is a watchable movie, but it's definitely was not what I was necessarily expecting. Like, I kind of wanted more from it. Like, I think Jonathan Majors puts on a good performance as King, but the way they just kind of shove him off, like they actually beat him in the end, the way they're able to beat him, like just Ant-Man and some ants beat this big bad that we're supposed to have in the next within this phase and all that. Like, this is supposed to be the Thanos level big bad, and he got defeated by Ant-Man and ants. Not exactly a good representation if you're trying to show him off as the big bad of this whole phase. But nonetheless, I still think this is a watchable movie, but I totally understand why people do not like this movie. I totally get the gripes of this, why people don't like this movie. And yeah, I kind of expected more from this movie. And the next one on the list is going to be Elemental, a movie that I was actually surprised by. Now, for me, Pixar hasn't been putting out too many good movies lately over the past couple of years. Really, the only movie that I liked, or the last Pixar movie I even saw in theaters was, I think, Toy Story 4 and Incredibles 2. Ever since then, I haven't really been liking the Pixar movies, but I saw this one when it went on streaming on Disney Plus. And I gotta say, this one, it was kind of a surprise to me. Like, it had some good word of mouth, and that's how I was able to actually make a decent amount at the box office. Because it had a horrible opening week, and the word of mouth got this movie to get more money. But I ended up checking out this movie on Disney Plus when it was streaming on there, and I gotta say, I was kind of surprised that this movie was actually kind of a solid Pixar movie. Now, I don't think it's like one of the great Pixar movies, or like it's like super great or anything like that. But it's a solid enough movie that I think it was actually, solid enough. With the way that this movie plays out, it's almost like a romantic comedy in a way. And of course, the animation is great. Pixar always does great animation. So I thought this was a solid enough movie. Now we get to the highest grossing movie of 2023, and that is going to be Barbie. Now, this one was actually kind of a surprise to me also. Like, I had no expectations for this movie. I didn't know what to expect with this movie. But after watching it a couple weeks ago when it hits HBO Max, honestly, it was kind of surprising on how much it was kind of a solid movie, actually. Like, I actually, I'm not going to say I had fun with it, but it was actually kind of entertaining in some way. And just the way, it just felt really campy, and of course the Barbie land parts. And kind of funny on how ridiculous it is at parts also. So with this movie, I actually had a solid enough time with it. Now we get to Disney's live action remake of The Little Mermaid. And with this one, I thought it was at least a solid remake, live action remake. At least probably one of their better ones in my opinion. I think it's at least within the top 5 or top 10 of their live action remakes. And with this one, I had a solid enough time with it. There's definitely some flaws with it, but I gotta say, there's a couple good things going on with this one. I gotta say, the highlight of this movie is definitely Halle Bailey as Ariel. She did such a phenomenal job as the character, and really feel like the character from the anime movie. I thought Melissa McCarthy did a pretty good job as Ursula also. So with this movie, I had a solid enough time with it. And we get to a guilty pleasure film from this past year, and that's going to be Fast X. Pretty much the whole Fast and Furious franchise is sort of those guilty pleasure movies that I like. Yeah, I know they get ridiculous at times, but that's one of the reasons why I watch them. And upon seeing this one, I actually thought it did a pretty good job of sort of returning to form in a way for the Fast and Furious saga. After Fast 8 and Fast 9, I definitely was not having high hopes necessarily for this one. But after watching it, I gotta say it is definitely a step above those movies. Jason Momoa is definitely a highlight as the villain of this movie. And I'm actually interested in seeing what they do in the next part. Next up, we get to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. What a long ass title. Now, I'm not the biggest Mission Impossible fan. I've seen the other Mission Impossible movies, binge watched through all of them pretty much a few years ago, and honestly, I couldn't get into this series. I know a lot of people like this series, and they like it for the action and Tom Cruise and all that stuff, but honestly, I just couldn't get into it. But I did decide to watch this one, give this one a chance, and I gotta say, it's solid enough. I'm not gonna say it turns me into a Mission Impossible fan, but it does some things. You have a couple of good action scenes here and there. I'm actually kind of intrigued on what's going to happen in the next movie. But this movie was just all right to me. It did some things, but it definitely doesn't turn me into a Mission Impossible fan though. We get to the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I gotta say, whenever I saw this movie in theaters, I had a blast with it. It was fun. Just being able to see this movie and actually do a good sort of representation of the video game. Like, honestly, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really did. I've also already watched this movie like 3 times this year. So yeah, this movie is a lot of fun. And we get to one of the biggest movies of the year, and that's going to be Oppenheimer. Now, Oppenheimer, I finally was able to watch it the other week. And after watching it, I gotta say, this is a great, amazing movie. I was a little afraid when people were overhyping this movie, saying how it's one of the greatest movies and one of Christopher Nolan's best. But after watching it, I gotta say it was pretty great. Probably won't go down as one of my favorites of the year, and I don't even know if I'll rewatch it again anytime soon. But for the time I spent with this movie, it's a 3-hour long movie too. For the time I spent with this movie, I had a good time watching it. It had a pretty good story. And a movie that doesn't have like much action is very conversational, conversations going on. And the way that the story goes on, the way the story unfolds with this one has a lot of interesting things going on. And honestly, like I see why people were doing high praise for this movie. So I think this is a pretty good movie. And we get to one of my favorite movies of the year, and that's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I enjoy and love this movie so much, one of my favorites of the year. The way that we're able to get this finale to this trilogy of movies, the finale to the story of these characters, the way that you go on this emotional roller coaster in this movie, and it's just a lot of fun. The soundtrack was great. One of my favorite movies of the year. And the way that they're able to just take us on this ride through this movie, where you're going through a wide range of emotions, watching these characters on screen, watching this story, and the way that they're able to do the Rocket side of story, you're able to feel for the character of Rocket, and you're able to see what he went through and feel for him, and to where it actually comes to like make you feel emotional, actually get you choked up or even tear up. Like, I love this movie. I'm glad we got this movie. It's amazing. One of my favorites of the year. I enjoy this movie so much. But coming in at the top for me is going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, if I had to choose one movie, only one movie that was going to be my favorite of 2023, this one is probably going to be it. The way we're able to get this continuing story of Miles Morales, but also get a story with Gwen Stacy in there, was so well executed. The animation was amazing in this movie. The way they're able to do different animation styles when we're visiting different universes, and each one had like a different animation, had its own animation style. Just honestly, you can see the kind of work they were able to put into this movie. The soundtrack was awesome. I listened to the soundtrack multiple times this year. This is the movie that I rewatched the most this year. This movie is just amazing to me. I enjoy it so much. I love this movie. Such amazing work of art, honestly. And I can't wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I'm so hyped for that. But that's going to do it for my ranking of the highest grossing movies of 2023. Let me know down in the comments below, how would you rank these 10 movies? But that's going to do it for this video. Still be on the lookout. Still got a couple more 2023 videos coming out. But that's going to do it. Hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see y'all in the next one.